Hello, welcome once again. This is one of my favorite topics for this course, political movements at the speed of the internet. I would love to be able to teach an entire class on social movements. I'm particularly infatuated with the civil rights movement, but this will be our one sort of brief look into political movements and how they've been affected by sort of this new internet era, by new technology, and really we want to cover a few different things. So we will start by looking at major elements of social movements in general. We'll look at a few strategies of social movements, and we'll see that those are not really changing very much regardless of what medium they're actually using. Much the same way as we talked earlier about broad and targeted political communication goals remaining very constant over time. The same goes for major elements and major strategies of social movements. We'll talk about a few examples, and then we'll finish up by exploring this Malcolm Gladwell idea, or at least recently has been talked about by Malcolm Gladwell, this idea of strong ties and weak ties, and we'll end up bringing that into class after this module is done. So in the entire world of looking at political movements, we could obviously start anywhere on this map, so clearly we should probably start at the most important place. Right here, and we want to start with a few of the major elements of social movements, and this is true regardless of when they took place, of what type of social movement. Almost all social movements include a few key factors. So first is the fact that social movements are used by political outsiders. Political outsiders are those people who do not have the access to political decision makers or political decision making that technically political insiders do. So obviously people elected to public office, people in interest groups, people who are staffers or have close connections to legislators around the world are going to be insiders. Those people who are marginalized politically would be considered political outsiders. Political insiders obviously don't need social movements because they can use traditional efforts like lobbying, interest groups, political party politics, and other strategies to try to get their voices heard. Social movements are the political strategies used by those people who really have their other options extremely limited. Second is the idea that members of a social movement share a sense of grievance, some complaint or sense of injustice that's caused by inequalities or perceived injustice based in society. So groups that are actively engaged in social movements believe that their problems are caused by common social ills. Things like wealth inequality between the rich and poor, political or social discrimination based on race, gender, sexual orientation, or otherwise. The idea here is that groups have the resources to organize, and they have a shared sense of political efficacy. Their actions will actually matter. But ultimately, they all share in the idea that there is this communal grievance. It's a group-based problem, and ultimately is going to require a group-based action. Third is a mass grassroots movement. Social movements are grassroots movements, meaning that they're movements directed by the people who are part of the community looking to make social change. They're not directed by traditional power structures, a hierarchy. It's not someone on top from Washington, D.C. or from the state capitol that's making these directions. Ultimately, it has to do with the people that are involved directly in that shared sense of grievance. So you see leaders emerge, but generally these leaders are from that community or from those communities that are sharing this perceived sense of inequality or injustice. Finally, social movements have a life cycle. And by this I mean that they are not meant, nor can they really last indefinitely. They're not political parties, they're not interest groups that are meant to last for decades. Social movements have a goal, and ultimately that goal is something that may or may not be achieved, but it's going to take place in a relatively short period of time.